I never thought I would see her name in my notifications again. Amanda. Just reading it sent a jolt through my body like I had touched a live wire. 12 years had passed since I found her with my brother Jake, 2 weeks before our wedding. I had rebuilt my life piece by piece, moved across the country, started a successful business, and found true love. So why was my hand shaking as I stared at her message? What could she possibly want after all this time? Before I tell you what happened when I opened that message, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below, and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever had someone from your past suddenly reappear in your life. I met Amanda during a 4th of July barbecue in Portland, Oregon, when I was 23 years old. My college roommate Thomas hosted it at his parents' backyard overlooking the Willamette River. I noticed her immediately. She was laughing at something, her head tilted back, sunlight catching in her auburn hair. When our eyes met across the lawn, something inside me just knew. We ended up talking by the drinks table. Amanda worked in marketing for a local sportswear company. She loved hiking and classic films, especially Alfred Hitchcock. I was fresh out of college with my computer science degree, working my first job at a small software company downtown. We talked until the sky darkened and fireworks exploded overhead, painting her face in flashes of red and blue. Our first date was at an independent theater showing Rear Window. Our second was a hike up to Angel's Rest in the Columbia River Gorge. By our 5th date, I was already imagining a future with her. Amanda was vibrant, ambitious, and seemed to fit perfectly into my life like she had always been there. Within 6 months, she was spending most weekends at my apartment. By 8 months, she had her own key. She became a regular at my family Sunday dinners, charming my parents with thoughtful gifts and genuine interest in their stories. My younger brother Jake, who had always been the charismatic center of attention, seemed particularly taken with her. I was pleased they got along so well. When I took Amanda to Multnomah Falls on our 2-year anniversary and got down on one knee, her yes came through tears of joy. The diamond ring I had saved for months to buy sparkled on her finger as we made plans for the future. We set the date for spring-booked Crystal Springs Rhododendron Garden for the ceremony and started compiling our guest list of 150 friends and family. We were planning our honeymoon to Hawaii, where Amanda had always wanted to go. Life seemed almost too perfect. I had recently been promoted at work. Amanda was excelling in her career. We were looking at houses in the suburbs. Everything was falling into place. The first sign something was wrong came about 6 months before the wedding. Amanda started canceling our regular date nights, claiming work emergencies or sudden migraines. Her phone, which had always been left casually around our apartment, was suddenly password protected and always placed face down. When I would ask about her increasingly late nights at the office, Amanda would become defensive. "Do you not want me to succeed in my career?" she would snap, making me feel guilty for even asking. There was a weekend when she said she was going to Seattle with her girlfriends, but when I called her hotel room, no one answered. She later explained they had gone out for drinks. It sounded reasonable, but something felt off. One day, while doing laundry, I found a receipt in her jeans pocket for a restaurant in wine country that I had never been to with her. When questioned, she said it was from a client lunch. Again, a plausible explanation, but doubts were growing like shadows at sunset. Jake, meanwhile, had suddenly become very interested in our wedding plans. He volunteered to help Amanda with arrangements, offering to drive her to vendor meetings when I was tied up with work. I appreciated his involvement, never suspecting his intentions were anything but supportive. I told myself I was being paranoid. Amanda was stressed about the wedding. We were both busy with work. Things would calm down after we were married. I ignored the sinking feeling in my stomach whenever she was late coming home or when her explanations did not quite add up. The truth came crashing down exactly 2 weeks before our wedding day. I needed to check our online gift registry to add something my mother suggested. Amanda had left her laptop open on our dining table while she went for a run. As I moved the cursor, a message notification popped up on her screen. It was from Jake. "Last night was amazing," it read. "Cannot wait to see you again." My blood turned to ice. With shaking hands, I opened her messages, telling myself there had to be an explanation. There was. Just not one I was prepared for. Hundreds of messages between them going back 4 months. Explicit texts describing their encounters. Photos they had shared during the weekend. They had both claimed to be out of town separately. Plans to meet whenever I was working late. Even discussions about what they would do after the wedding. I sat there for 2 hours reading everything, each message another knife in my chest. I was still sitting there, the evidence displayed on screen, when Amanda returned from her run, cheeks flushed and water bottle in hand. "What are you doing on my computer?" she asked, then saw my face. Saw the messages on screen. The color drained from her face. "How long?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. She denied it at first. Claimed I was misinterpreting things. Said Jake was helping her plan a surprise for me. But when I scrolled to a particularly graphic exchange about what they had done in our bed, she broke down. "It just happened," she sobbed. "We never meant to hurt you." I stood up so quickly my chair crashed backward. "You never meant to hurt me. You are sleeping with my brother 2 weeks before our wedding." Her confession came between sobs. It had started 6 months ago after they had been drinking at a mutual friend's party. They had gone back to Jake's apartment. It had been a mistake, she claimed, but then it kept happening. Whenever I traveled for work, Jake would come to our apartment. They had been together dozens of times, right under my nose. I drove to Jake's apartment that night, pounding on his door until he opened it. His expression when he saw me was not surprise or shame, but annoyance. "She told you," he said flatly. The fight that followed left us both with bruised knuckles and split lips. What hurt more than his betrayal was his complete lack of remorse. "She was always more interested in me. Anyway," he spat as I was leaving. "You were just too blind to see it." The next weeks were a blur of humiliation. Canceling wedding arrangements, returning gifts, explaining to confused relatives and friends why the wedding was off. My parents were devastated, caught between their 2 sons. Some family members took sides, fracturing relationships built over decades. Amanda moved in with Jake the following week, not even attempting to hide their relationship anymore. I heard they were still planning to attend a family dinner at my parents' house, as if nothing had happened. I refused to go. My work suffered. I called in sick repeatedly, could not focus when I was there. I overheard coworkers whispering about my situation, stopping abruptly when I entered rooms. I lost 20 pounds in a month, my clothes hanging off my frame. The lowest point came when I ran into them at the grocery store 3 months after the canceled wedding. They were shopping together, Jake's arm around her waist, looking like any normal couple. Amanda saw me first, her smile fading. Jake met my eyes without flinching, then deliberately kissed her temple before steering her down another aisle. That night I drank myself into oblivion, then showed up uninvited to my parents' house the following Sunday, knowing they would be there for dinner. I had not planned to make a scene, but seeing them sitting at the table where we had shared so many family meals broke something in me. I do not remember everything I said. My mother crying, my father standing between Jake and me, Amanda running from the house, Jake calling me pathetic, me collapsing on the front lawn, sobbing like a child. That night, lying on my childhood bed, I realized I could not stay in Portland. Every street corner, every restaurant, every mutual friend reminded me of Amanda, of Jake, of my shattered trust. I was drowning in a city that had once felt like home. The job offer from a tech startup in Austin had been sitting in my email for weeks. I had initially declined, not wanting to move away from family. Now it seemed like the only lifeline available. I accepted the position the next morning. Telling my parents was difficult. My mother cried again, though she understood. My father helped me pack up my apartment while Amanda was at work so I would not have to see her. I left without saying goodbye to Jake. Some betrayals cut too deep for reconciliation. Austin was exactly what I needed. A city where no one knew my story. My apartment was sparse and lonely at first, but it was mine. No memories haunted it. No one there pitied me or whispered about me. I could be just Charles, software developer, not Charles, who was left by his fiancée for his brother. I threw myself into work, spending 12-hour days at the office, volunteering for every project. My boss noticed my dedication, even as he suggested I might benefit from better work-life balance. But work was my salvation. In code, there were problems with clear solutions. Unlike human relationships, programs followed logical rules. 6 months into my Texas life, I finally admitted I needed help. My company offered therapy benefits, and I found Dr. Garcia, who specialized in trauma and betrayal. Our weekly sessions were painful at first, digging into childhood patterns and family dynamics I had never examined. "You blame yourself," she observed in one session. "You think if you had been more attentive, more exciting, more something, she would not have strayed." She was right. Despite the enormity of Amanda and Jake's betrayal, I had somehow internalized the failure as my own. Through therapy, I slowly began to recognize this was not my burden to carry. Around this time, I joined a hiking group, seeking to reclaim an activity I had once loved, but had abandoned because it reminded me of Amanda. There I met Michael, a transplant from Chicago, with a boisterous laugh and unwavering loyalty. He became my first true friend in Austin, dragging me out to social events when I would have preferred to stay home. My work continued to impress my employers. I was promoted to senior developer within my first year. The increased responsibility and salary boosted my confidence. I started to recognize my own value again, separate from the rejection I had experienced. New hobbies filled my free time. I took guitar lessons, joined a rock climbing gym, and improved my cooking skills beyond basic bachelor fare. My apartment gradually transformed from a place I slept to a home I enjoyed, decorated with concert posters and photography from my Texas explorations. 18 months after leaving Portland, Michael convinced me to try dating again. My first attempt was with Kim, a friend of his girlfriend. She was objectively beautiful, kind, and interested in me. But halfway through dinner, she laughed in a way that reminded me so painfully of Amanda that I nearly walked out. I managed to finish the evening, but did not call her again. 2 years after the betrayal, I could finally talk about what happened without feeling like my chest was caving in. I mentioned Jake and Amanda casually in a conversation with new friends. Their expressions showed shock at my story, but I realized the pain had dulled from unbearable to a manageable ache. My career continued its upward trajectory. I developed an app that caught the attention of investors, eventually leading to me starting my own technology company. The long hours and stress were worth it, as I watched something I created grow and succeed. In Austin, I built what therapists call a chosen family. Friends who knew nothing of my past until I was ready to share it. People who valued me for who I was now, not who I had been or what had happened to me. 5 years after leaving Portland, I met Sarah at a tech conference in Dallas where I was presenting. She approached me after my talk with thoughtful questions about user interface design. Sarah was a child psychologist who consulted with tech companies developing educational apps. Her warm brown eyes and straightforward manner immediately put me at ease. Our first date lasted 6 hours, conversation flowing effortlessly. Our second ended with a kiss that did not remind me of anyone else. It was entirely new, entirely its own. By our 5th date, I told her about Amanda and Jake, about the wedding that never happened, about my escape to Texas. "Thank you for trusting me with." That was all she said, squeezing my hand. Sarah's patience with my lingering trust issues was remarkable. When insecurity would make me question her late night at work or wonder about her male colleagues, she would provide reassurance without resentment. Her steady, honest nature gradually rewired my expectations. I learned not everyone betrays those they claim to love. My relationship with my family had become complicated. I called my parents regularly, sent birthday and Christmas gifts, but avoided visits that might include Jake. Eventually, my parents began visiting me in Austin, instead marveling at my new life, my growing company, my healthy relationship. From mutual friends back in Portland, I learned that Amanda and Jake's relationship had imploded within 3 years. Apparently, he had cheated on her multiple times. The news gave me no satisfaction. I had moved beyond needing their unhappiness to validate my own recovery. 2 years into dating Sarah, we bought a house together in a quiet Austin neighborhood. It had a yard for the dog we adopted, a home office for each of us, and plenty of room for the future we were building. 10 years after the betrayal that I once thought would destroy me, my life was fuller and richer than I could have imagined. My company was thriving. I was financially secure. Most importantly, I had found contentment that did not depend on anyone else's choices. The Facebook message from Amanda arrived on an ordinary Tuesday morning as I was checking emails. "Hi, Charles. It has been a long time. I have been thinking about the past and the hurt I caused. I am back in Portland now, divorced. I know it is asking a lot, but I would appreciate a chance to apologize properly. Would you be open to talking?" After reading it several times, I showed it to Sarah, who was making coffee in our kitchen. "What are you thinking?" she asked, her expression concerned but not worried. "I honestly do not know," I replied. "Part of me wants to ignore it. Another part is curious. Whatever you decide, I support you," she said. "Just remember how far you have come." I waited 3 days before responding, turning the situation over in my mind. Finally, I wrote back with civil brevity. I mentioned I would be in Portland the following month for a business conference. We could meet for coffee one afternoon. Her response came quickly, almost eagerly. We arranged to meet at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. I had never visited during my time living there. Walking into that cafe felt surreal. 12 years had passed since I had left Portland broken and humiliated. Now I was returning as a different man, successful and secure. I spotted Amanda immediately sitting at a corner table, nervously turning a mug in her hands. She had aged. Fine lines framed her eyes. Her auburn hair now had strands of gray. She had not bothered to color. She looked smaller, somehow less confident than the woman who had once commanded every room she entered. "Charles," she said, standing awkwardly as I approached. "Thank you for meeting me." We exchanged stilted pleasantries about the weather, about my flight. Then she took a deep breath. "I have been in therapy for years," she began, "working through why I did what I did. It was never about you. I want you to know that. It was about my own insecurities, my need for constant validation." She explained how her relationship with Jake had quickly turned toxic after I left. His charm had hidden controlling tendencies and an inability to remain faithful. He had cheated on her multiple times before she finally left 7 years ago. "I learned the hard way that how people treat others is eventually how they will treat you," she said, her voice catching. As she spoke, I searched my heart for the anger, the hurt, the love that had once consumed me. I found only a distant echo, like trying to recall the pain of a long-healed wound. "I am truly sorry, Charles," she said finally. "I know that probably means nothing after all this time, but I needed you to hear it." "Thank you for saying that," I replied, surprised to find I meant it. "I hope you have found some peace." She asked about my life. I gave her the outline without detail. My company in Austin, my satisfaction with my career. I mentioned Sarah without elaboration. This woman had lost the right to know my intimate joys and struggles. "I was wondering," Amanda said hesitantly as our meeting was ending, "if we might stay in touch, perhaps as friends eventually." "I do not think that would be best," I said gently, but firmly. "I wish you well, but our chapter is closed." The relief I felt walking away from that cafe was immense. The ghost that had haunted the edges of my happiness for so long had finally been exercised, not through confrontation or revenge, but simply by moving forward with my life. My visit included another unexpected encounter. I had arranged to have dinner with my parents at their home, assuming Jake would not be there. I was wrong. He arrived unannounced while we were having appetizers, clearly unaware of my visit. The shock on his face when he saw me sitting in our parents' living room was almost comical. He had aged more visibly than Amanda. His once athletic build had softened. His confident demeanor seemed forced. "Charles," he said, shifting uncomfortably, "I did not know you were in town." Our parents excused themselves to the kitchen, leaving us in an awkward silence. "I heard you met with Amanda," he finally said. Of course they still communicated. Small towns have long memories and short distances. "I did," I replied simply. "Look, I know it is 12 years too late, but I am sorry," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "I was selfish and jealous. I have regretted it for years." Looking at him, I realized something profound. I felt nothing. No anger, no resentment, not even pity. Just nothing. He had no power over me anymore. "I appreciate you saying that," I said neutrally. "How have you been?" His life story tumbled out. A failed marriage. Money troubles. Moving back into our parents' garage, temporarily. Job hopping. It was clear he was unhappy with the direction his life had taken. We made it through dinner with forced politeness. When I left, I shook his hand briefly but made no promises about staying in touch. Some bridges once burned should stay crossed. Flying back to Austin, I felt lighter. Seeing Amanda and Jake, hearing their apologies, had shown me how completely I had moved on. Their power to hurt me had dissolved entirely. Sarah was waiting at the airport. Her warm smile, a welcome sight. That evening, I told her everything about the meetings. "I am so proud of you," she said. Not everyone could face their past with such grace. It made me realize something. I told her. What happened was terrible, but it led me here. To Austin. To my company. To you. The following weekend, I asked Sarah to marry me during a sunrise hike in the Texas Hill Country. As she said yes, I felt no shadows from my past darkening our moment. The betrayal that had once defined me had become merely a chapter in my story, not its conclusion. Looking back now, I understand that some of life's worst moments can redirect us to where we truly belong. The path I thought I wanted was not the one I needed. Forgiveness, I discovered, is not about reconciliation or forgetting. It is about freeing yourself from the weight of anger and resentment. It is about recognizing that the people who hurt you cannot continue to harm you unless you allow them to occupy space in your present. Have you ever had someone from your past reappear unexpectedly? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and growth. Share this with someone who might need to hear that their worst moment does not have to define them. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings.